Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down complex topics by going directly to the source material.
So, here's a pretty wild question for you. Could a text that's 1,400 years old actually contain a hidden mathematical code? Today, we are diving deep into a theory called the Mathanani Chronicles, and it proposes just that the Quran is built on a very deliberate, very intricate mathematical structure. It's a fascinating claim that really tries to bridge faith, mathematics, and even data science.
All right, so the Quran's hidden code, where do we even begin? Well, the core of this whole theory is a framework built on noticing recurring numerical patterns. But to even start to understand it, we first need to get a handle on one key tool they use to supposedly unlock all of these patterns.
And that tool is called the digital root. It's actually a really simple technique. You just take a number, you add up its digits, and you keep doing that until you're left with just a single digit. Like in the example, 28 becomes 2 plus 8, which is 10, and then 1 plus 0, which gives you 1. This simple trick is used all over the framework to find these supposed hidden relationships in the text. It's really all about boiling big numbers down to their fundamental essence. And with that single tool, the first piece of the puzzle starts to emerge.
Okay, so the first clue on our code-breaking journey is the number 7. According to this theory, the number 7 is huge. It's said to represent repetition, or what's called mathani, and you have to remember this concept because it is absolutely central to the entire framework.
Now, it's not like they just picked 7 out of a hat. It shows up in some really prominent places, right? The very first chapter of the Quran, Al-Fatiha, has 7 verses. The text mentions 7 heavens, so the theory takes a specific phrase from the Quran, 7 of the Mathani, and reinterprets it. They suggest it's not just talking about 7 verses, but that it's a clue to this whole system of numerical repetition. And check this out for a prime example. The theory points to 2 specific chapters, Surah 71 and Surah 72, as a pair. So what do they have in common? Well, they both have 28 verses. Now 28 is a multiple of 7, right? 7 times 4. And remember that digital root thing we just talked about? The digital root of 28 is 1. So for proponents of this theory, this layered connection is seen as really strong evidence of a deliberate design.
Okay, so we've got 7, which represents repetition. Let's move on to the next major clue, which is the number 9. Within this framework, 9 is associated with enumeration, which is just a structured way of counting. So if 7 is the repeat button, 9 is kind of like the organize and list button. It's all about order and completeness.
Now this is where things get kind of mind-bending in a really cool mathematical way. The theory proposes a link between repetition, or 7, and enumeration, 9. So stick with me here. If you take the fraction 1 divided by 7, you get a repeating decimal, 0.142857 over and over. Now, if you take that sequence of numbers, 142857, and multiply it by 7, you get 999,999. And the digital root of that number? It's 9. This is presented as a kind of profound mathematical bridge between these 2 key numbers. And the theory doesn't just pull this idea from a math textbook. It tries to anchor it directly in the text itself. It points to this specific verse as direct inspiration, suggesting that the Quran itself is hinting at its own numerical nature. All right, we've had 7, we've had 9. Now we get to the most unusual piece of the puzzle, the number 1729. The theory calls this number the pola, or the pattern exemplar. You can think of it as a kind of structural hub, a key that connects a whole bunch of different elements.
So, you're probably wondering, why on earth that specific number? Well, according to the sources, it's because it has a really unique mathematical identity. It's known as a taxicab number, and it's actually pretty famous in math circles because of a well-known story involving the mathematicians Hardy and Ramanujan.
What makes it a taxicab number is that it's the smallest number that you can write as the sum of 2 cubes in 2 different ways. As you can see here, 1 cubed plus 12 cubed is 1729. But also, 9 cubed plus 10 cubed is 1729. Now that property is rare enough on its own to give it special status. But for this framework, its significance goes even deeper. See, it's not just about the cube sums. The theory says to look at its other properties too. Its prime factors, for example, include the number 7. Its digital root is 1. And critically, look at the individual digits it's made of, 1, 7, 2, and 9.
And this is how the theory connects that abstract number right back to the Quran's structure. It proposes that the digits themselves, 1, 7, 2, and 9, are actually pointers. They're claimed to directly reference Surah 71 and Surah 72, the exact same pair of chapters we looked at just a few moments ago.
Okay, so let's take a breath. We have 7 for repetition, 9 for enumeration, and the strange number 1729 as a pattern exemplar. So how do they all come together? Well, according to the source material, they form a single, unifying formula that's meant to describe the entire numerical architecture of the text.
And this is it. This is the central equation of the Mathani Chronicles. It's really a conceptual model where Q stands for Quranic coherence, and it's described as a function of these 3 key numerical components we've been talking about.
So let's just break that down one more time. Each part of that formula represents one of the concepts we've just explored. 7M stands for the repetition, or Mathani, based on the number 7. 9E is for enumeration, based on the number 9. And P1729 is that special pattern exemplar number.
Okay, but is this just a theory, or is there a way to actually test it? Well, the source material proposes a computational method. An algorithm was actually built to map out all the numerical connections, or edges, between the Quran's 114 chapters based on the rules of the formula, looking for things like shared verse counts or digital roots.
So they ran this algorithm, and the source material claims that it found approximately 5,200 of these connections. Now, that number creates a pretty dense web of relationships across the text. But 5,200 doesn't mean anything in a vacuum. The real question is that a lot? And here's why that number supposedly matters. To provide some context, the same algorithm was run on randomly generated texts that had the same number of chapters and verses. In those random texts, it found less than half the number of connections. So the argument is that the Quran's structure is significantly more interconnected than what you would expect to happen just by chance.
Ultimately, the sources claim this whole framework isn't just about finding interesting number patterns. It offers a new, quantifiable method to analyze the text structure and to make an empirical case for its unique and intricate design.
So, what are we supposed to make of all of this? Is this evidence of a deliberate, divine blueprint? Is it a series of really remarkable coincidences? Or is it simply a novel form of literary analysis? The Mathani Chronicles, no matter what you conclude, certainly challenge us to look at ancient texts in a completely new light.